This is an interview with James Casey, the Hampton Inn, Commack, New York, February 27th, 2003, approximately 9 a.m. The interviewers are Michael Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
James F. Casey. I was born May 13, 1924,
Okay.
in Brooklyn.
Okay. What was your pre-war educational background?
I was in high school the last term when the war started.
Okay. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
The day that Pearl Harbor, I was ushered down in the theater. That's when we got in downtown Brooklyn. And it was sometime that afternoon when they told we had to get all the servicemen out of the theater.
What was your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Well,
Did you recall at all?
yeah, well, I knew something bad. That's what we knew, because the next morning in high school, they brought us all into the auditorium, and we listened to President Roosevelt. And it was at that time we started to get the impact of the war.
Okay, so did you, I'm sorry.
Then what happened after that, my cousin, who was 2 years older than me, was already hooked up with the Army base in Brooklyn. We had a big Army base in Brooklyn as a civilian employee. And he came and he spoke to my mother, and that was January now. And I left school, went down to the Army base, and they trained me in the Ford plant in Pennsylvania. And what I was doing then was shipping over the tanks and trucks and sealing them and on the ships to get them into Africa. And we were doing it so fast we were even putting phony cannons on the M3 tanks. That's what at that time. They didn't even have the time to manufacture them. And I did that for, I was 18 then, and then I was called, and of course I was the oldest of 4 kids, and my mother was a widow. She tried to get me out, and I went in, talked to the draft board, and I went.
You selected the Air Force? Or?
No, funny thing, they took us one morning from a street corner in Brooklyn, and we went over to Penn Station, and they put us on a train. And we didn't know where we were going. And about 8 or 9 hours later, we wound up in Camp Upton, out in Yaphank, New York. I was never out here, so we didn't know where we were. It took all day to get there. And during the testing period, I met 2 fellas from the older guys. One guy had done the 1-year service, and he was like a little father to me,
Define older.
Yeah. And then after the testing, they called out certain names, and they said we qualified for the Air Force if you wanted to take it. I was going to turn it down, figuring I'd do what I did for the Army base, but this guy, he said, you don't want that. So I went to the Army Air Force.
Where did you go for your basic training?
I went to Miami. Not bad, Miami, because I was never outside New York State at that time. And I went down there, and then they put me in Harlingen, Texas, Air Gunnery School. Coming from Brooklyn, a kid, next thing I was flying over the Gulf of Mexico, shooting at a big sleeve being flown. And from there, I went up to Boise, Idaho. We met up with 9 other guys, and they made a crew. And from there we went to, we picked up a plane in Kansas City. We flew to New Hampshire, Labrador, North Ireland.
Now, was your crew together for the whole war, or your whole...
No, what happened, when we got over there, the B-24s, of course, were then being used for longer distances, and they carried more than the B-17s. And we had the turret, the belly turret, and that was slowing us down and the drag, so they took them out. And so now we had an opportunity to get rid of the belly gunner or to stay as a crew. And we elected to stay as a crew and rotated the one guy stayed on the ground. And that's how we, up till the 25th mission. We were required at that time to do 25 missions. And after that, we were asked to stay 5 more. I stayed for 10, and I did 35 and come back. I was back here before the war ended.
Did you keep the same plane?
No. On the way over, we lost a few planes flying over the North Atlantic. We had a big problem with ours, and what they used to do, they brought the Continental engineers up to New Hampshire at that time because they're trying to get the kicks out of these new planes, you know. And we had a great guy, an engineer by the name of Bob Swank. When we had trouble, now we developed trouble on the way over, and of course that we were looking now to try to get to Iceland. At that point, we started over as a, I don't know, I forget how many planes were there, but we were now all alone. And he saved the day, you know, whatever he did. He was a farm guy, a little older than us, and let's say we made North Island anyway, and it was a gas problem, and what they did, they flew us up the pilot. They used to call me Irish, and they flew up the west coast of Ireland. We were very low at that point, and so I could see Ireland. And we landed and the plane stayed there. They took us by boat then to Scotland.
On your missions, did you use the same plane, or did you?
We started out using the same. They gave us another plane when we got there. Of course, the invasion had started, and they gave us a plane, and we started out with that one. We kept changing, and then of course the one that we was shot up in, that was left in North France, and we come back. I forget what kind of plane we come back in, but anyway, that was there. Then we lost another one in Belgium, and then we stayed pretty much with the same plane.
Did you ever get to name your plane?
The first one going over we did.
What did you name it?
Little Audrey.
How'd that come about?
That was the pilot's girlfriend. He never married us, so that's
Did it have any nose art on it?
Huh?
Any nose art or just the name?
Well, it was eventually shut down. We found out when they brought it over from North Island. I think it went with the 396th. I'm not sure of that, but then they told us it was shut down.
Did you ever decorate your jacket?
Yes. We, in fact, the time when we got into North France in Nancy, all the gunners used to have, I had big Irish on my left, big shamrock, and on the back that we had bombs for each, trip, and the ground troops were laughing at us. So.
Did you keep your jacket?
I kept it after the war, but I certainly wouldn't fit in it now, but I forgot what, I think where, I guess. Never wore it when I come back because I'd walk around with bombs all over it, you know.
Okay, could you describe some of your missions? Where were you based in England?
In Shipton. It's near Durham. It's in the north, off the North Sea. And it was, we were out in a farm area. We had Nissen huts with potbelly stoves, and that's where we were.
Do you have much contact with the civilian population?
Well, it was a working farm. They were all over the place, and the Nissan huts were somewhat near it, and we had bomb shelters built around it, because this was the path of those the V-2 bombs coming over.
How are your relations with the people then?
We used to go to a small town, you know, the pubs, and they used to kick us out at 10 o'clock at night, and that was it. We used to go in by bike and come back.
Could you describe some of your missions? Where were most of your missions?
First mission we went to, at that time, the thing was to stop the supplies coming into France for the invasion.
When was your first mission?
It was after the invasion started. I think it was the last part of June in '44, and we went to Koblenz, Germany. The reason we remember that, and after we went through, the flak was so thick, and we were just glad it was over, but we didn't drop the bombs. Something was wrong on the lead plane, and they said we had to go back.
Did your plane have a bomb sight in it, or did you go off the
Yeah.
lead plane?
No. We had a bombardier, but most of the time, all planes were watching the lead.
Where did you rotate on the plane as to what gun you were using?
I was a waist gunner when I started out, and we had a tail gunner, and he got notified there that his brother had been killed and shot down from another group, and he had a little bit of a problem, and he could not get back in the tail. So, of course, they were going to ground him, and we kind of talked him in, and I volunteered to go in the back and let him stay to keep him so he did his missions.
Could you tell us about some of your missions then?
The one in Koblenz, we kind of got hit with some of the flak on the second run going in. And there was a few other missions that were tough. Then we went to St. Lo, where that Lieutenant General Leslie McNair was killed. Of course, that was a major accident. Then when we got hit, I know we landed in, we made it to Nancy, France.
So what was that mission? Which number was that?
I don't know. I would say, I'm guessing now, maybe 9th, 10th, around there. And then the one after a couple after that, we went down in outside Brussels, and we got to the British there. They were still fighting in the city of Brussels. The British took us in, and we had tea in the afternoon.
Now, did you bail out both times? Or you...
No, we went down with the plane. He gave us an opportunity, the pilot, to bail out, and we stuck with him because he was taking it down. And what we did, we threw out a lot of weight, you know, over where we were, and he got us what we thought was behind the lines, and sure enough it was. And then we got back from there, and we continued on. And of course the pilot, the co-pilot, the navigator, and the radio operator and engineer, they completed the 25 ahead of us because we were rotating some of them. I didn't rotate all the time, but the rest of them. So we had, they had 25 in, and they were sent home, and we stayed and continued on. Not all of them completed after that, but then we went from different crew to crew. That wasn't nice, but we did it.
Did you ever, were you ever under attack by fighters?
Yep.
Did you know if you ever had any hits? Or?
Don't know. We aimed, you know, we saw planes go down, but without cameras and whatever. One of the worst of the things is when the Battle of the Bulge was on. we were called in to go low level. We went in like a height of treetops. We dropped stuff to the parachuters there.
Mhm.
That was rough, because it was one of the worst winters in Europe at that time. The snow. Another time in France, we were low level, and we could hardly see. So I was in the waist on both. We had watching, and I kept screaming at one point because the tip of the wing was right near a church steeple. So, but all in all, we're lucky to be here. Nobody ever told us that the per capita, that the 8th Air Force lost more people than any other outfit in World War II.
I know one of the veterans yesterday told us all these statistics on the
Yeah,
Air
I know.
Force. That
We're learning that later.
Yes, yeah. Did you ever see any USO shows while you were?
No. I saw Eleanor Roosevelt once. Who else? No, I never saw any of them.
When was your last mission?
It was in April of '45. And then they took us down to a seaport, and they put us on a ship, and we came in a convoy back to New York. It took us like 9 or 10 days to get back. And I was here maybe a couple of weeks when the war ended over there.
What did you do between April and September when you were discharged?
I was sent to a convalescent hospital out in Colorado. I had a little problem with the speech, and they told me it was a trauma. And then I got discharged from the hospital.
Did you ever suffer any frostbite at all, or?
I did. I was in the tail one day when the shot hit the what do you call the heating? The heater went out, and had very bad in the back.
What was your reaction, and where were you when you heard about the death of President Roosevelt?
We were on I'll tell you, it was a very, we were all lined up to get on a boat, and we were notified there. We heard it over the loudspeaker.
This was when you were going home?
We were just getting on a boat to come back, and guys were crying. It was very sad.
What was your reaction when you heard about the atomic bombs being dropped? You know?
I tell you, we were out in Colorado at that time, and we thought it was great because we thought we were going over to Japan. You know, we never knew, how many people was killed, and we never knew any of that, at the time. But as all we knew, it ended the war.
Did you ever make use of the GI Bill?
For education, I think for about 6 months I went to a school. And what was nice, when I took the discharge back to the high school, they gave me my diploma. I only had, 6 months to go, so.
Did you ever use the 5220 Club?
No.
Never did. Did you join any, or do you belong to any veterans organizations?
Yep. I belong to the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Disabled American Veterans. That's about it.
You don't belong to the 8th Air Force?
Oh, I do. That's right. That's
it's an
right.
important
I
one,
do.
isn't it?
Yeah. And the 44th Bomb Group now. Yeah. And I went to one reunion out in Dayton.
Asked that if you
Yeah, I went to a reunion out in. Most of our guys are gone. It's only myself and the engineer that I know is alive.
Did you ever keep in contact with any?
I did. I kept in contact with quite a few of them, but that was years ago, and they were all dying. So there's only about 3 of us left. But I had a very great reunion there. We went to the Dayton to the museum there. We met there. It was nice. And initially, when I went up to Idaho, the general was Leon Johnson, the Congressional Medal of Honor from the 44th Bomb Group that went into Palesti. And one of the guys, when I got to the 44th, worked for him. So we had, great guy. So, and the 44th was a great group, and it went on to become like a strategic bomber, and it's still active.
How do you think your military service affected your life? Do you think it affected your life in any way?
Well, it certainly got me out of Brooklyn, the first trip anyway, and it certainly made me grow up quick, that's for sure. And never realized. I thought we did a good job, but if I had to do it again, I would, so no problem with that.
Okay, you brought some things in.
Yeah.
If you could hold it up to the camera, Wayne can focus
just
on
hold
that.
it like
Just
that.
like that.
And when were they taken?
This was taken when I was in Harlingen, Texas. This is when we flew the open cockpit, flying, shooting. This is getting the first air medal from Colonel Linhauser.
Okay.
And this is the crew. This was taken, I think, before we left Idaho.
Okay, and whereabouts are you?
See that guy in the middle there, the kid? I was the youngest.
Standing or
I'm down there.
down? Okay.
All right.
This here is a V-mail that took 6 weeks to get back. And if you notice, there's a blackout. They blocked out the fact that we flew over. That was confidential. I don't know how they thought we got over there. Well, most guys went by boat, I guess.
Okay.
Funny story with this. I just sent a copy of this over to a Marine, my wife's nephew, and showed this took 6 weeks, and he faxed us back in 20 minutes. How about that? This is the first citation for an air medal. There's some of the bomb things.
Now, did you take these?
Yeah, I took these here. We had a camera in the waist. And this just shows a flight as we're going over. But you probably couldn't see these.
I can see it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And this is what you call, when we used to come back, they used to interrogate us, debrief us. And these are the shots, on the target. And this shows a shot of the bombs leaving.
Okay.
And
And what was it like flying as a tail gunner? Was that worse than being a waist gunner?
just that you're cramped. The waist was very cold, by the way, because you had no glass. It was open at that time. It was wide open. And, little did anybody realize that one day I heard him talking, how cold. it was 73 below zero. I said, whoa. But, you know, we had, of course, we had the oxygen on all the time. And we used to get back, they used to give us a shot of whiskey when we got into the debriefing thing. You know, you'd almost fall over when you took that because we were, you know, 19 years old, you know.
Now, were you sealed into the tail?
That's it. That was the, because you're in a turret.
Mm-hmm.
See, the 17 was different. Here you had to get into a turret. That was confining, and of course, you can't move. And when the flak was coming, or the, you know.
What type of parachute did you carry? The chest pack? Or?
Chest. You couldn't put it on back there.
Mm-hmm.
You had to keep it close.
Did you ever wear your flak jacket?
I used to sit on it back there. That was because these things were, forget it.
Most of the guys said they
Yeah.
sat on them.
Yeah, you got it. These are guys, you know, I even forget. But here's a picture of when we got over there. You see them taking out the ball turret. That's, you can imagine, that was lowered hydraulically.
Did you ever go into the ball turret?
I was in it, but I didn't fly in it. That was a confining thing.
Yeah.
You were actually wrapped around like, yeah, that was a toughie, that one.
So what is this?
Now this is the German junker that's out in the museum we have out in Dayton.
Okay.
Now, these
That's
are
the reunion. This is our reunion out in Dayton.
And was that your crew?
Yeah, this is what was left there that day. And here we had on display there, that's the complete thing of a B-24,
Cockpit?
the cockpit. The whole thing is compared to what you see today.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
so
Okay.
we had a guy from Mississippi on our crew that used to go out and shoot rabbits because we weren't having roast beef and cabbage out over there. So he used to cook the rabbits. So one day I went and I found a stray cow and I put him into the bomb shelter while we went flying. I didn't know, me from Brooklyn, I never saw her, that a cow had to be milked. So the cow's in there a couple days and screaming and hollering. And of course the farmers come and looking for the cow. And of course they heard him. Because there was a big investigation. You know, how did the cow get down in the... So years later when I was out in Dayton, I admitted to my crime. And we had a big laugh.
They didn't give you an Article 15?
They did. So we all laughed at that, but the farmer got his cow back. I thought he would cut it up and, you know, whatever. But anyway, that's a little humor.